And we're live!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to not another episode of Those Aren't Biscuits, but a fun little chill stream. We do these from time to time, and this is another one.
We do! And this would be a great game to play multiplayer, except you don't own it, and I'm playing it on a console you don't own. But other than that, it's almost like you were here. I actually really like this game. I'm playing Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I'm gonna get this out of the way because we don't really talk about the games much. This game flopped hard.
Yeah.
And it's actually my second favorite fighting game after Injustice: Gods Among Us. I sure know how to pick them. This is one of my favorite fighting games, and Star Wars Battlefront is one of my favorite shooters.
You're just winning on all sides.
Yeah. How about those red coats?
Yeah, you're on the. Your heritage lost. Your first-person shooter lost. Your fighting game.
Yeah, basically. Hello in the chat to Chicken Lisa. How you doing? All right, I'm gonna get into. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't think I'm gonna. It would be a bit weird to run through the story, but I might let it run.
Right.
I'll turn the sound down on the cutscenes so that people talking aren't getting annoying.
Yeah. So I just noticed something really annoying.
Oh yeah.
Like Skype won't let you play stuff in the background while you're on a call.
Really?
Yeah. Like
that's weird.
Unless I don't know. Maybe it is like my headset. No, that shouldn't be it.
There, I've turned the cutscene volume down.
Yeah, it absolutely will not do that. Huh.
Fair enough. I would really recommend you play this game, by the way, because I'm not into fighting games. But it's really cheap because it flopped so hard, and it's worth it for the dialogue between Thor and the little guy from Ghosts and Goblins. Is it Ghouls and Goblins? What's that game called? You know the little guy I mean.
Super Ghosts and Goblins.
The little knight.
Yeah.
Because within the role
Arthur
of Marvel vs. Capcom, they fill the same sort of role. The old-fashioned voice, cartoony person.
Right.
They bounce off each other well. But we're not here to talk
His
about
name
the game.
Arthur.
Was his name Arthur?
I
guess. I don't know. The one funny thing I like about this game is because they've merged one character. The villain in this game is a merge between Sigma from Mega Man and
Thanos. Or no,
Ultron.
Ultron. Oh, by the way, Chicken Lisa in the chat says, "Oh, and I can barely hear you compared to John."
Okay, I've tweaked that. Let me know how that is, Chicken Lisa. That should be a little better balance now. But because of that, they always refer to him as Ultron Sigma, never separately. They never just say Ultron or Sigma. Because clearly, like, lawyers went over the script. You know what I mean? Like, okay. What?
He will not get another mention.
Which I learned recently is the same situation with milk chocolate. Like, milk chocolate is a very specific thing. And legally, in the UK at least, and the EU, you're not allowed to call something chocolate unless it contains at least, like, a specific percentage of, unless it contains, like, a specific percentage of cocoa. So you have to say milk chocolate. If you ever not say milk chocolate and just say it's a bar of chocolate, when it's milk chocolate, you're actually, like, misleading what the product is. I just assumed it was, like, a selling point, you know?
Chicken Lisa says, "Yep, sound is good now."
Awesome!
So no, I know what you're talking about, because another one that's really stupidly like this, and it's one of those things where throwing a hissy fit about this just kind of makes you look worse,
Right.
rather than...
Are you talking about the person doing the hissy fit, or just me in particular? Wherever it's happening, it makes me.
You. But it's like the chicken industry one day just got real uppity about the term chicken wings,
right?
Or hot wings, or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And basically said, like, unless you're specifically using the wing section of the chicken, you can't call your product a chicken wing or a hot wing or something like that.
Which on the surface sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
but then you get to how are they defining wing?
Yeah, I guess, but it's like I can understand, like, okay, if I bought a package of chicken, right, and I looked down and it said chicken wings, but I could see nothing but drumsticks. Like, okay, I understandable. That's annoying, but like the chicken wing, like in a different context, is itself like an item, right? Like you go to Pizza and you order the wings, right? It's the little tiny pieces of chicken. Sometimes they have bones, sometimes they don't.
Right. See, what you're saying is if you ordered a bowl of chicken wings and you got 9 wings and 1 like small thigh, you wouldn't be going, "Hey, waiter!"
Right.
I ordered chicken wings.
So the weird thing is, like, restaurants can still get away with this, right? So they can still say, "Oh yeah, these are chicken wings," and they can basically do whatever the hell they want, right? Because they're like the intellectual property in that situation is like on the restaurant and not the chicken industry,
right?
But stores for a while could not. I think they actually got over this because I haven't seen it so much lately. But like they couldn't call their things chicken wings anymore. WING.
Wait, but
so you saw these things pop up just calling themselves chicken wings, spelled WYNGZ.
And were they chicken wings?
Fuck no, they're buffalo wings, or like, just what you would coat in like a barbecue sauce. See, like that sort of.
The thing is, I will say, I don't really know how to respond to this because I've never like had that situation where I would buy something that would be advertised as chicken wings and it wasn't wings. Well, actually, do you know what? I suppose sometimes you do order chicken wings and you get like the thigh bit. You know what I mean?
Or like the little drumstick.
Right.
Yeah. Which are the best. And
it's like the upper wing.
Well, and like the other, because there's like 2 major
chicken shoulder,
like chicken wings. It's the tiny. It's the tiny drumstick, and then the little, like, 2 bone bit. Where it's like the 2 little bones. You have to kind of peel them apart.
Right, that's the best bit of the wing, right? Are we agreed?
Oh, I'm more of a drumstick guy.
John and his tiny drumstick. Fair enough.
I'm a little Neil Peart. Today's top song is meantime. I was thinking, like, oh, it'd be really funny to do a really high-pitched Rush. I'm like, wait a minute, he's already pretty high-pitched.
There's just silence, and somewhere nearby, dogs are barking. John doing his really high-pitched,
Getty impersonation.
Somehow the animals are always the first to know. I can get behind that.
Well, it's like how they say, like, cats know about earthquakes, like 5 minutes before they hit.
Yeah, which people have like interpreted to mean they like pick up vibrations and stuff. But I think they just have a really, really advanced science core no one knows about. How else could they do all the creepy shit they do? Why do they know what time it is every morning if you're up 5 minutes late? They have a very precise weather-keeping service.
They'll have little, like, 2-way pagers, just...
Right.
Hey, Earthquake's coming. Ah, shit.
Yeah, the little organizers.
Right, I'm out of here.
The
smiley face,
DA.
smiley face. Just...
Yeah, that's what they do. They scuttle about, updating the weather service, loading in their apps. They had the iPhone a good 6 years before we did, basically.
Right. They're well, you know, like every one iPhone of ours is 7 of theirs. So.
Well, cats, if you think about it, they are the original millennials. You know, they don't want to work for a living. They don't.
Right. They don't have committed relationships.
It's their fault your favorite chain restaurant is closing. The health inspector gets in there and it's all over. If you've just got cats rolling around.
The generation before them got pegged to be like witches symbols, so they all got killed, you know, but somehow it's still the millennials' fault that happened. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They love vinyl.
Well, they do. Haven't you ever seen them rubbing their face along records? Plus, it gets better audio quality, and they care about that shit.
Right. It has a warmer sound.
And cats, they do love the warmth.
They just lay there in the sound. Just...
Ah.
I'm really annoyed by this. Like, I'm wondering if it is a Skype thing or like a Windows setting that I can change.
People at home have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I said it. I said while we were live.
I don't think you did.
Apparently,
did you?
while I'm on Skype with. Yes, I did.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Well, I won't listen to you. Shut up.
Yeah. Clearly. But
don't pay attention to what you're talking about. Hello to Asperger Bear. Says, hi, where is Wheel of Fortune?
In hell, where it belongs.
Wheel of Satan.
Oh, bankrupt again.
3 hours later. Shit! What the hell's a walkable neighborhood?
Look, this is ridiculous. They're gonna blame me for this shit. I had nothing to do with Wheel of Fortune.
I mean, I'm evil, but I'm not a jackass.
Right. Like I'm evil as shit, but like this is infuriating. Like,
people watching at home, by the way, I'm not good at this game. I should warn you. And it's been a couple of like weeks since I last played it, so I've completely forgotten what I'm doing. But I am Rocket Raccoon, so that's okay. I can live with that.
Right.
Have you seen that Teen Titans Go, the movie, has a Stan Lee cameo in it?
Does it?
Yeah, they're walking through a movie.
It's really fourth wall breaking, so it's like really meta.
They're walking through a movie studio a lot, where they're thrilled to see that all these superhero movies are being made, and Stan Lee's just in the background. He's the janitor. He's waving. He's getting in the way, and then he pushes his way through, and he's like, "Hey, I'm Stan Lee. I'm doing one of my oh so subtle cameos." They just, wait a minute, this is a DC movie? Oh no! Great.
Yeah.
I'm reminding myself of the controls. Oh, okay, it's LB for the Infinity Surge. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I think maybe I got it now.
Think you got what? Your headset working?
I think so.
You do sound different. Or is that just my imagination? Or is it on PS4 it's not working? Maybe you just sound different because I'm listening again.
Oh, was that you just...
What?
Oh.
I didn't say anything. This is an interesting stream. Hello to Tiny Bit Secret has just arrived. What is Toffee up to? Nothing. She's, oh no. I don't know where she is. I went to get a drink before my stream, and she was sat on the Pepsi packet. So I had to, like, wangle around her, and she's like, no! No! Claws! I will not be assaulted in this way! Like, well, don't sit there, then!
This is uncalled for. Cat law is by far superior to your human law.
That is basically how they feel. Like, I am sat on this, therefore this is currently mine. Don't you be trying to get in my personal space. Asperger Bear says, he's funny, even if he has been in trouble in the last year or so, but I have no idea what he was referring to. Who's been in trouble in the last year or so?
Stan Lee?
Stan Lee?
I'm guessing.
Well, there was that accusation that he'd assaulted nurses, but that turned out to be, like, something someone had been paid to say, someone had been paid to say in line with this whole elder abuse thing that's going on. That's really awful.
Right. Yeah. The worst thing is that you kind of realize that this isn't going to end well.
No.
When Stanley does pass, like, things are going to get very, very ugly.
They certainly are. Hello to Loose Connor says, hello, what's this game? This is Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Yeah, I mean, they're already ugly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrible at this game, by the way, people at home. It's fun, but don't expect performance. I also turned all the voices down, hence these occasional moments of weird, like, silence. It's really bad, because at least one have landed when you and I weren't saying anything. So it was just eerie silent streams. But it's just a chill stream.
Some people are really into that.
Well, usually while we're doing the podcast, me. I'd trade. Eerie, uncomfortable silence. Sorry.
What I'm trying to say, Jonathan, I've been trying to push you out of this show for years now and replace you with a low
with silence.
Frequency hum. Just...
Low frequency hum was my nickname in high school.
Oh boy, here comes a low frequency hummer.
Bear says, I think I heard somewhere that his kids tried to put him under Guardian because he was in money trouble. He's the long and short of it with Stanley. I mean, it's a very, very complicated story, but the basics of it are, since he died, he has been in difficulties. Well, since his wife died, sorry. There have been difficulties with basically who controls his estate, and lots of people who were supposed to be looking out for him haven't been, essentially. And that's not a great situation to be in. A lot of it seems to rely on his fact that his daughter, who's like in her 60s herself, basically seems to be like an overgrown child who relies on him for money and to finance her schemes and things, which is awful, you know?
Yeah, like she gets like wrapped up in a lot of like pyramid scheme shit and Ponzi schemes.
Yeah. And the worst thing is, like, the most uncomfortable thing has been watching Stanley getting trotted out to do these weird videos defending the people who are clearly manipulating him.
Yeah.
It's rough, it's horrible, it's very, very complicated to try and sort out, but he does need to be under some sort of guardianship, for sure. Like, one of the last big developments was someone had basically been stolen his blood, you know?
Yeah.
Which is a lot less dramatic than it sounds. They were just making ink for some limited edition comics, but when you get to the point where you're stealing an old man's blood for money...
Well, no, let's not sweep that under the rug. Like, that's kind of fucked up in itself.
No, what I mean is, we're not talking about satanic rituals or anything. When you say they stole an old man's blood, it makes you think of, like, the satanic rites of Dracula, do you know what I mean? But no, that's the thing. It's horrific. Like, how do you get to the point where you're stealing an old man's blood and you don't go, have we crossed a line? At some point, like he's in like a giant tank, sedated, cables coming out of him, you know? All over his body are just little like markers with things signed but claimed by Alan. This bit 3 weeks after death goes to the Institute. You know, you're like, have we maybe crossed a line here? Is that?
I think we should pump the brakes a bit.
Yeah. Luce Connor says, or as the rumored title will be, apparently Infinite will be renamed Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Will it? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they were trying to get away. This game flopped very, very, very badly. And the rumor is they're working on a sort of a retooled version.
Well, from what I understand, like, especially after the acquisition by Disney, like Disney is like rumored to be one of the most difficult companies to work with,
right?
In terms of like their properties and
well, this was the product that really brought that whole Disney aren't letting people put X-Men characters in anything thing to a head. Right. This is when it like people have been aware of it in the comics for a while, but this is when it started to make waves outside comics because of course there are no X-Men in this game. Wolverine's not in this game. Doctor Doom's not in this game. You know? Like the idea of a Marvel vs. Capcom game without Wolverine is sort of insane. And the X-Men too, because obviously this franchise, while Marvel vs. Capcom, it really broke into the public consciousness, I'd say, with Marvel vs. Capcom 2. This actually began with X-Men Children of the Atom, you know? This branch, Children of the Atom, is really the first Marvel vs. Capcom game, you know? Even though there are no Capcom characters in it. It started this line of fighters.
I mean, yeah, it developed a system.
Yeah.
You know, the fighting systems.
Great game, actually, Children of the Atom. I always liked that one.
Although, like, it makes no sense. You know? Like, Children of the Atom. Because, like, that title.
My picture froze. Everything's working. I've just killed the video capture device. Carry on.
But like the big thing with like mutants is supposed to be their genes, right? Which I understand they're all made up of atoms and molecules and whatnot. But when you say something like children of Atom, I'm thinking like,
oh, I just broadcast my face. That was good.
Face reveal.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional, but enjoy that, people at home.
But yeah, it's like it should be like children of the genetics, or just children of DNA.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Did you enjoy your tiny look at my face? Yeah. So apparently, my video capture device is not
blindness
is not actually helping itself at the moment. Which is great. Carry on talking, John, while I sort this out.
My question is, why were you wearing that sausage in such a strange place?
So, hold on. For some reason, it's not actually picking up my capture card. Oh, there we go. Didn't want to do it. Hello, everybody. How you doing? Oh, great. Now my face is on again. What the hell are you doing, game? There we go. Blummeneck. Sorry about that, guys. I do apologize. And for the occasional flashes in my face there.
Yeah, you should really apologize to us for that.
The USB cable came out of the capture card for a minute, which froze it, which was annoying. For like a whole match. Asperger Bear says, and the rumor that Diablo 3 will get crossplay in a new update after the Switch version is released between PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. I was just talking to John before the stream actually about how I was kind of disappointed with Diablo 3, but I think I'd enjoy it more on the Switch actually. Just being able to play it on a handheld, I think I'd enjoy, you know?
I used to own it for the PS4 and I liked it there, but
I don't dislike the game. I'm bored of it, more bored than I expected to be. And one of the things was I wish I'd realized that when it says normal difficulty, that's bullshit. Normal difficulty is ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
Except that everything has a huge health bar, so there's no challenge, but everything takes like an hour.
Right.
And I don't like that. It's not my favorite Diablo game. I was telling John my favorite is still the first one, but I do like 2 a lot. I think what I'd love is a game with the structure of 1 and the character classes of 2, the character skills of 2, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be fun.
I hate this version of Hawkeye, by the way. Like,
oh, the movie, but with purple details?
Like, no, not. It's the sunglasses. Like, I think I'd be okay if he didn't have the fucking sunglasses.
My favorite. I'm skipping through the cutscenes because I've got them with no audio. But my favorite bit about this is they all go back for like a really important scientific thing about what the hell's going wrong with the universe. And Dr. Light from Mega Man in full cartoony glory comes in and says, "Well, it appears that Ultron is." You're like, all right. It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that one. I'm getting through the easy stages here. I'm trying to push through to the more difficult ones so I can remember how to actually play the game. We got Gamora here. Alright, skip this.
Everyone is very excited to have seen a glimpse of your visage.
Yeah! Which is good. Why is it not full screen face reveal? Because it was an accident. This is my favorite environment in the game, by the way. Valkanda, which is, it's Wakanda mixed with the land from Monster Hunter, and it's amazing. But I spend my whole time when this scene of the game is on being really confused as to how the logistics of it work. Because all the characters from Monster Hunter still recognize Black Panther as their king. And I'm like, but are they aware that they've merged? Or do they, like, have a history where he's still the king? How does this work? How do the logistics of Valkanda work? I must know.
They merge like, well, fuck it.
Yeah. He's the king, I guess.
That's how it works. Like...
Yes. I completely approve.
What I want to see is you know, T'Challa make a really grand special speech, you know, to all the new people. Like, you know, yes, we will treat you as equals, and you are now part of our homeland. And then he just turns around and like, get these people out of here.
Oh no! Oh no! They hunted and skinned Manape.
There's these damn glowing bugs everywhere. Just use a map.
Why?
We have GPS.
Why have all instructions for everything in Wakanda disappeared?
No one knows how to do fucking anything.
Also, why are there now invisible doors between every area of the city? Every time you're doing something, if you happen to step backwards, you fall into a different area and have to start again. Why did it take me 6 hours to craft and assemble the Black Panther suit this morning?
It's like, sir, there's no electricity. Yeah, because the engineers are currently on a online forum trying to figure out how to get the turbines running again.
Why do 6% of people say they like Wakanda better this way and won't shut up about it?
They keep on saying that Wakanda's now immersive. How was it not immersive before? It was real fucking life. Hyper Destroyer says there's a game similar to this called Injustice 2. Yes, there's also Injustice 1.
There's also a game similar to this called Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, Tekken.
Oh no, Tekken's a 3D fighter. So.
Is it?
Yeah, Tekken's a 3D.
Even Tekken 2?
Oh yeah, they were all. They're the ones who started it. Well, I guess they're sort of Virtua Fighter, but
Soul Calibur. That was pretty.
Tekken was first though.
See, I played Tekken 2 a little bit back in the day.
Like a Virtual Fighter had very, very rudimentary 3-dimension movement, but it really became a thing in Tekken 1. But in terms of crossovers, DC had, their Mortal Kombat crossovers.
I like that game.
It's better than you think.
I played it. I played it after Injustice, because Injustice kind of blew me away. Injustice made me realize that a fighting game could be an immersive and enjoyable story.
Mortal Kombat versus DC was the first game that have that.
Yeah, it was that studio,
basically
wasn't
the
it?
prototype. Yeah, it was.
And then the next Mortal Kombat games have kind of been
I suppose it was still Midway at that point before they.
Sure, but it was
changed
the
names
same.
to
It was the same team.
Or NetherRealm. Yeah.
Oh damn it! This is one of the hardest fights because you don't have anybody to switch to, and it's the Hulk. You want it to be the first time you fight the Hulk in a fighting game should be. If you're going for a kind of a story style fighting game, it should be difficult. I think
Yeah. I hate the Hulk.
See, everybody was really down on the character designs in this game. I don't think they're so bad. There are issues. I agree with you on Hawkeye, but that's how he looks in the comics.
Right. Well, I think compared to if you look at Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and 2 and 1,
right?
The characters are much more vibrant and colorful.
Yes.
And this one they look kind of bland.
Some of the characters look really great. I like Miss Marvel a lot in this game.
Mm-hmm. But for all the characters where you had the option of making them colorful or not, they went not. They could have made the Hulk more green. He's kind of this drab, matte finish green.
They're definitely going for an MCU style look.
Yeah. Whereas with Miss Marvel, her suit is just straight up, bright red and blue. But yeah, even Thor, right? I saw what Thor looked like. There's
that's true.
They could have given him they could have given him the red and blue look, from the early days.
It's true.
But they went with the chainmail.
I don't think they have a lot of alternate costumes too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Capcom characters come out better. You get the feeling that they have more leeway with those, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we've seen Spider-Man yet, but I would say Spider-Man's kind of the same thing too.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of with everyone. I think this is kind of... I don't really like how these characters are looking.
I don't really mind it. I kind of like this game. Mm-hmm. But, it's fair enough. I do agree with the people who say, it was a change over to a bit, plain to move away from... I don't love a lot about how Marvel vs. Capcom 3 looks, but the style of, the very heavy cell shading that looks like classic Kirby inking.
Right. And then, there was a tone to it, right? It was kind of like this, not just the art style, but, everything about it had this sort of, for lack of a better word, kind of a batshit crazy thing going on.
Right.
They knew the concept was ludicrous, so they just decided to have fun with it.
Sure. But I would say I think this game, the environments do really well. I think that backdrop's great.
Yeah.
And you're going to be seeing a lot of it, because I suck at this fight. I was terrible at this the first time I did it, too.
So I have a question
Sure.
that kind of popped up yesterday while I was playing Titanfall 2, which I've beaten the campaign to that. It's fun. It's a good game. They do stuff with that game that you wouldn't expect.
I have heard it's a real sort of gem of first-person shooters hidden.
It really is. And like it's one of those games where they're not afraid to throw a real crazy concept in for a level. Like there's this whole level where the core function is that you can swap between times. So you're going through this whole dilapidated, or not, like burned out, blown up research facility. And it turns out they were working on this time mechanic thing. This and basically turn the whole area into a giant rift in time and space. And but you have a device that lets you like stabilize into one or the other statuses. So you have to go through the whole game switching between current and present day stuff to get around.
Oh wow, like Singularity.
Yeah, so like you'll come to this area and like the whole floor is on fire. Like it's just burned out. If you fall, you die. Right. But if you go back in time, it's normal. But if you go back in time, there's a section of the wall that you have to run on that's electrified because the power's still running. So you have to do this, start your run, switch times so you can get past the electricity thing, and then switch back to the past again to avoid the fire. You know, you have to. It's pretty well done, and it doesn't last long enough to kind of grow tired. There's a really great moment where you have to jump down this tube, and they present it as it could be a really easy thing because you look down this tube and you see that at the bottom is fire, and so it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna jump in this tube and I have to switch it back to the past to get past the fire. So you jump and you turn into the past, and then you realize that where the fire is in the present, in the past, it was a spinning fan blade. So you had to go like past, present, past, present, past, present, past, present, and like keep switching back and forth. And it's like
that sounds
fire,
so much fun.
Fan, fire, fan, fire, fan, and it's good. And then like the the big draw of the game is the mech combat, and that's really well done. Like they do well enough to change the feel of fighting in a Titan to when you're running around on the ground, because it doesn't feel necessarily like you're still playing a first-person shooter,
right?
But it's simplified enough so it doesn't feel like you're playing Mech Warrior,
right? Well, that sounds good. I've been meaning to try it out. I mean, this is a game that was cheap. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a game that basically flopped so hard because Titanfall 1 basically flopped so hard, right? Like,
yeah.
And it didn't... Titanfall 1, I think, was the first game to really suffer from this era of trying to release games that just had multiplayer.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, Titanfall 1 did kind of have story missions in multiplayer. A little bit, but not very involved ones.
Yeah, it was kind of... It was very similar to like Battlefront 1.
Right. But then
how they handled.
I've heard Titanfall 2 is basically excellent, but
completely ignored. Titanfall 2 has an amazing first-person campaign, or a single-player campaign.
I heard somebody say, and I don't know if this is like relevant to the type of game, but I have heard people say that I've seen a few people say basically this is the first like really pivotal single-player first-person shooter since, say, like Half-Life 2, which is very, very high praise for the game. But then it did so badly,
It honestly feels very, to me, very... I mean, it's the same team, so it makes sense, but it feels very much like the first Modern Warfare.
Right.
Which has a good campaign.
Which I loved. I spent years saying I don't like Call of Duty and I'm not interested. When I finally did play that one, I loved it. Mm-hmm. I still feel vindicated saying that, because I also played World at War that year, and that was awful, but...
Yeah. No, it definitely feels very much like... It feels very much like Call of Duty 4 or Modern Warfare 1.
Right.
But then they also add in like boss fights and and like set pieces for levels. Like there's this whole level where you play in a like in a colony building assembly line. So as you're going through this giant facility, you see that they're building like planet panels. if you know what I mean, like, so
right.
As you're going through, there'll be you'll see like a forest going by on the assembly line, because they're basically building these prefab colonies to put on planets. And yeah, it's like there's this whole part where you have to climb up a wall using a town that is laid on its side. So you have to kind of jump onto the sides of houses which are facing upwards and use them as platforms. But yeah, so like Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare 1, they do this thing where, like I said, they'll introduce a weird concept mechanic or, you know, thing for individual level, but they won't it won't be there for the whole game. You get it for that one level, like the AC 130 missions,
right?
You know, in where they're around just long enough to be enjoyable, but they don't get like really tiresome.
Right. That does sound good.
Yeah,
because I would say I would say Modern Warfare is actually, even when I played it, it was years out of date. And yet it still felt like one of the most refreshing campaigns I'd played in quite a while.
Yeah. Give this one good a go. It's a good time.
It has been on my list for a long time, Titanfall 2. Very much so. You still there? John? John! We lost Jonathan! He's ringing. Johnny!
That was my fault. Well,
I didn't think it was my fault, to be honest.
It turns out that the power button on my headset
hangs up Skype?
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's useful.
Yeah. So I was actually going for the volume button, and I hit the power instead. So yeah, sorry I got talking about Titanfall 2. What I actually wanted to ask you is, this question kind of popped in my head yesterday while I was playing it. When you play video games, do you imagine the video game as just existing in a different universe, or do you view it as they're in a universe where you don't exist anywhere?
What do you mean?
Like I was thinking, like, when I was playing Titanfall, okay, like, clearly this is like a completely different universe, a time and space sort of thing, but I still had this feeling like I myself existed, just in a different like dimension than them.
Okay. And you were actually controlling them?
No, I'm just saying that, like, okay.
Because when I was a kid, I used to play TIE Fighter, which I loved, and I would imagine that I was remote controlling a TIE Fighter actually at the time. But I was about 13.
No, it was like, how do I say this? Like, okay, from their perspective, all right, from the video game's perspective, the characters in that game, right? It's as if in their world, they came up with the many universes theory, just like we did, and I exist in one of them.
Okay, so this doesn't happen too often to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the answer to your question is, this is one of the very, very rare times in my life where my brain hasn't even begun to explore what you are talking about. And I have absolutely no empathy for what you're talking about at all. I don't even I don't even really get what what you're saying is, when I play a video game, do I think the things in the video game are actually happening in another universe?
No, what I'm saying is, like, I get that they're... Okay, so let's go back to Call of Duty, right?
Okay.
Now, understand that Call of Duty is a piece of fiction, right?
Okay, yeah, it's not happening. Got it.
Right, but the conceit is that while these events are happening, the fictional version of myself would be in Wisconsin, right?
Okay, right, I get it. So,
okay.
So Call of Duty is a... but it's not, because that would mean that the author knew you existed.
But I'm saying, like I said, the conceit. Right?
Okay, so Call of Duty is a game ostensibly set in the modern day in a war that is actually happening somewhere else out in the world. So does that mean that back in America you sort of exist in the actual world as it is? Or does Call of Duty exist in a universe that is entirely fictional and doesn't necessarily correlate to, like, back where you are too?
Right. So, like, I was thinking of...
I think the question is idiotic. That's...
It's... Like... but this mean, like... I know it's... Like, I'm not saying that this is some great, philosophical question, but it was just something that came to mind. Like,
well, what you do when you have thoughts like this, John, is you put them out of your mind because they're stupid.
No, there's no... No, that's just insulting, all right? You're just being insulting now. Like, I know you're trying to be... Like, I'm being this, roguish, Brit, but you're just gotta be an asshole.
I have no idea what you mean. I'm trying to process it, and I don't get it.
I'm sorry that you're so dense that you can't figure it out, but... Like... Okay, how do I explain this to you that you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, so, like, okay, all these games, like I said, like Call of Duty, right?
Okay.
There is, within that world, right, there is a concept of the U.S. and England and the U.K.
It takes place in a world that is basically the same as the real world, essentially, broadly.
Right.
We're not talking about, like, Mario, which doesn't take place in... there isn't necessarily an America and an England in Mario.
Right. So I think, like, you can make the case of, like, with, like, Call of Duty, that we're looking at as, like, an alternate timeline, right, of world events.
But isn't that the same as any fictional story?
Right. I guess. But there's some where it's harder to make that claim, right? Like something like Titanfall 2, right? There's no suggestion that, like, Earth even existed in that game, because you're out on the frontier, and there's all these different planets, and they never even ostensibly say that you are a human, right?
So I'm just reading the chat. Chicken Lisa says, "Oh, and now you are just being mean." Tiny Betsuka says, "He is, but does anyone know what John is talking about?" Chicken Lisa says, "I'm trying." That's how I feel. I'm trying, but I don't really get it. So are you saying, okay, let me try and phrase it as I think I understand it. Totally sincerely, and you can tell me if I'm way off, right? But I'm gonna use something like movies, okay? Just as a parallel. If I watch the movie Jarhead, right?
Okay.
That's a fictional movie, but it's very much based in reality, right?
Sure.
So you can assume that within the context of the movie, when you watch it, you are supposed to assume that back home, everything is as it was at the time of the movie. Right? Yes. So in that universe, in theory, while you're watching the movie Jarhead, you can also presume that, I don't know what movie that year that's set in, like, what, 2007, 2005? You could presume that, in theory, in the context of the movie, whatever you did in America at the time also happened, right?
Oh yeah, well, that's set during Desert Storm, so we're talking like 91.
Okay, right. Fair enough. I was thinking it was Second Gulf War, but that would still be... Anyway, fair enough. I get it, right? But what you're saying is, in a game like Modern Warfare, which is set sort of around Gulf War II, but isn't really based on an actual conflict.
Right.
Do you still exist the same way you would if we were talking about a game based on, say, Jarhead? Jarhead, the video game. The feel-good game of the century. Do you exist? Do you exist during the events of a game like Modern Warfare the way you could be presumed to exist during the events of a movie like Jarhead?
Yeah, sort of. That is, you're getting closer to what I'm thinking. Like, okay, here, like.
Well, I can honestly say I've never thought about it before. I just think of fictional movies as taking place fictionally, of fictional games and stuff.
Okay, right. Let me word it this way. All right. In the mind of the creator, do you think he views it as you existing in this universe, right?
Well, I mean, the answer to that is fundamentally no, because the creator doesn't know know me.
Well, sure, but do you think in the creator's head when he makes Titanfall 2 or whatever, in his head this is still an offshoot
of reality,
of reality, right? And then that essentially, like, I would exist, even though he doesn't know I am here.
All the people, he presumes all the people that currently exist would still exist.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think the creators really think about it that much. Were you smoking weed when you were playing the game?
I wasn't. I wasn't. I wish I was.
Yeah, man. Do you ever think about, like, if in the movie, when the things happen, does the creator, the god of that universe, he put you in there too? Are we all really in every book ever written, just in the back, contextually? Or are we all just, like, the product of some super mind? And... and does that mean that we're all really characters in someone else's story? Still with us, John?
I don't know. I might have been written out.
God, I hope so.
Dick.
If I'm being totally honest, John, I can honestly say I still don't really get it.
That's fine. Alright. I don't know.
I think I get it.
Like I said.
I think I get it. I think what you're saying is, if I phrase it as simply as possible, does a game like Modern Warfare take place in an alternate universe, therefore you can't honestly say any of us can be said to exist? Or does it take place in a universe where we can presume, sans the author actually coming in and stating otherwise, we would exist?
Right.
And my answer to that is, who gives a shit?
It's a hypothetical question. Like, if everyone just went, oh, who gave a shit for everything, then we would never even have the concept of philosophy.
Oh, sure. But I'm not talking about...
No, fuck off.
I'm not talking about saying who gives a shit for everything. I'm talking about saying who gives a shit for this one specific question that has absolutely zero contextual...
I'm sorry. Like, next time you hit me with some inane question, such as, like, what Looney Tune I would sleep with, I'm just gonna say who gives a shit. All right,
hey,
there we go.
That was a great conversation.
How the show is going to go from now on. Don't bother tuning in, folks, anymore, because Jonathan just does not give a shit anymore.
It's such a bafflingly irrelevant, vague question.
Oh yeah, because I'm sorry, all your questions are just full of meaning and purpose, and
hey,
you know. No.
We got a lot of entertainment out of last week. I don't mean to be dismissive.
We could have got it.
Look, okay.
You don't mean to be dismissive.
I genuinely don't, but what I mean is, that's my only reaction to the question. When you say, do you ever think about that, and have you ever... Like, my only response is like, no. Who would? And why?
I did. So clearly someone would.
Yeah, and I'm worried about you, John. Now. I'm concerned. Okay, so... Okay,
that I think about things a little bit differently.
No, just this specific one, which is so strange, a thing to think about.
Okay, I'm sorry, like, you never had a strange thought, right? I thought this was a safe place.
Okay,
I thought
I've had lots of strange thoughts, just not this one, and it's so strange to me. Okay, so let me ask you a follow-up question then. Since this is apparently something you think about, right? What video game could you see yourself existing in? Like, could you give me an example of one where you would say, if you had to choose, I either exist in the world of this one or I don't? Could you give me an example of one where you would be fairly sure, okay, I would exist in this one? Maybe it'll help me understand a little better.
I don't know. Who gives a shit?
Well, I'm just trying to understand your point. I mean, I don't. I've clearly specified, but...
Okay, so here's another one that
give me an example of a... Give me an example of a game you're fairly sure you exist in and a game you're fairly sure you don't. And that'll help me. That'll help me understand.
All right. A game that I clearly feel like I exist in.
Okay.
Probably something along the lines of NBA 2K series. Like,
all right, because that takes place very much in the real world.
Right. But yeah, like the storylines, you know, or the story mode is usually fictional. You know, so it's still a fictional world, but I feel like I could exist there. Now,
right, and if it's based on like this season's NBA players, presumably like all those people are still around doing what they're currently doing.
Right. Another game that I feel like, a game I don't feel like I could exist in is, like you said earlier, Mario.
Sure, but Mario does come from Brooklyn. So do you not exist in the world of the real world where Mario comes from Brooklyn? Do you exist in that world? You're obviously not in the Mushroom Kingdom, but are you in Mario's Brooklyn?
I don't think so.
Oh, these days it's his New Donk City, but, you know, older games when he was still a plumber from Brooklyn. And I'll give you an example of one where I would never think I would exist. The Resistance series, because that's clearly an alternate history that deviated in the 1930s. Right? So I don't exist in those. Even when they reach the present day, I don't exist. Or if I do, I'm not the same me anyway.
Right. And see, that's where it gets a little messy for me. Right? Because I feel like the one that came up when I first came up with this thought while I was playing the game, I immediately thought of God of War. Right? Because God of War, for being as batshit crazy and weird as it is, and, you know, involving gods and everything, still kind of takes place in ancient Greece, right? And so, like, Sparta existed. At one point, I think you're in Athens. That existed. So I'm thinking, like, okay, flash forward, you know, 2,000 years, or however long it would be, probably like 2,500 years. Is it possible that the events of God of War could have happened, and then 2,500 years in the future, there's a Wisconsin?
So assuming God of War takes the position that actual Greek mythology actually happened, by the time we reach the year 2018, has the rest of human history still basically played out the same way? We just forgotten, and it's basically God of War leads on to the present day as we understand it.
Yes, essentially, yeah.
That's an interesting one. I've never thought about that. I suppose for me, like, I don't really think about I don't really think about where I am in games. Like that honestly isn't something that ever occurs to me when I'm playing them. And I can probably say the more disconnected we were from the present day, the further away that would get. Like if I was playing... So Modern Warfare might be one I would see, because one of the things I always say about games like Modern Warfare is I personally, while I can acknowledge Modern Warfare was a great game, I personally find those Modern Warfare setting games often quite distasteful. I don't love them.
Right.
And so my own feelings about war and things like that do play into those, but I've never thought about that. But then it does raise questions like, for example, okay, let's say Modern Warfare 1. If I exist in the world where Modern Warfare exists, I don't really know about what's happening in Modern Warfare 1. Do you know what I mean? I'm not really up on that until like a nuke goes off. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not really aware of those events or following them. But Modern Warfare 2, what happens if I happen to know somebody involved in the airport thing, right? So do we... Am I in there, and at some point do the events of Modern Warfare start to affect me, and at that point isn't me anymore? I don't know. But I can honestly say I've never thought about that. I've never, ever thought about stuff like, where would I be in the connection of this story? And am I still there? That's never occurred to me.
I think possibly I'm just very
selfish.
Arrogant.
Where am I in this?
Oh, on my level. I don't know. It's something I've always kind of done in fiction, where I'll be kind of watching and be like, huh, where would I be in this? Like, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, if everything remained the same, and
we'd get bored of looking at each other. Sorry.
I don't know. This is a weird thought.
The only time I do anything like that, really, is games that put you into a role. Like City Skylines, I do often think, like, here I am, Owen, city planner, doopy-doopy-doo. But that's as close as I get, you know?
Right.
Post-apocalyptic games, I think about where I'd be, actually. Post-apocalyptic games make me think about stuff like that. That's the closest I would get, I suppose. But even then, in a game like Fallout, for example, I'm not thinking about where I would be in that world, because I wouldn't be in that world, particularly. It's set in the future and stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
So no, I can honestly say, no, it really hadn't occurred to me. I think I got there with what you were thinking in the end, but it was a stretch. It's not how I think about it's not how I think about stories, I guess. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But thank you for that.
Thank
you for that trip into your brain.
You doing okay now? Like other people have taken trips there, it's not pretty.
So I've never actually played this far in the story before, because I'm skipping cutscenes and because I've just played away. I've got further in this game than I've ever got before. I've never played Ghost Rider before. He's pretty good, actually. He looks pretty cool. But then he's a hard character to get wrong, Ghost Rider, isn't he? Because you can make him black and not very colourful, and he'll still be colourful. You know?
Let's see here. Time Best Secret says, like, oh, now I'm sad. Owen has gaslighted John into admitting it was a weird thought. Oh, no! I knew it was a weird thought. Like... I never had the idea that, oh, this is a sane person's idea. Like, like when I had, I'm like, huh, this is weird.
What you don't realize is when you see the version John has in his mind where he is in charge of, he is in the world of Modern Warfare, he's intimately fucking involved with the, with the terrorist plot and the nuke. He's right there, front and center, hand on the button. Like, what would I be? Where would I be in this world? He's like there in the airport, just killing people. Like,
no Russian, got it.
The game ends like an hour earlier with a much, much darker conclusion.
It just. we do this for motherland. Yeah, I don't care. Just
Am I getting paid?
Got
Good.
Am I not? Whatever.
Like, where did we pick up this guy? Why did we take this trip to Wisconsin? He contacted us. I don't understand.
He was way into it.
He spends the whole time going, "Do you think there's another me out there?"
You think he's at this airport? Can I shoot me? Will that have any ramifications? Is this like The One starring Jet Li? Do I get more powerful?
Asperger says Nicolas Cage was not good as Ghost Rider. You know, I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Nicolas Cage's Ghost Rider, but I actually don't think those movies are bad if you're making a Ghost Rider movie. You know what I mean? Maybe that's just... maybe this is just me not having a fundamental respect for the character, I guess, but I sort of feel like he lends himself to that kind of movie. He, like...
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing is like... Johnny Cage... Or not Johnny Cage. Like, Johnny Blaze himself is not like a fucking manic character. Like, he's kind of just like a dude. You know?
Right.
He's not... Doesn't really have much personality at all, really. He's... kind of a blank slate, but Nick Cage plays Johnny Blaze as if Johnny Blaze was Nick Cage, you know?
Right.
Like, there's...
Yeah. I do think this level's kind of hilarious. We're fighting Dormammu and the Firebrand from Ghosts and Goblins. Like they'd be the pair. Yes, Dormammu and this low-level imp. Let's go.
Oh no, the Firebrand's the devil at the end, isn't he?
Is he? Aren't there little guys like him all the way through? Ah, fair enough. I still feel like Dormammu would not have respect for the Firebrand. I also love that, if you're still watching the stream, Arthur's running animation is the Ghouls and Goblins running animation.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm just kind of sad that they didn't go with the Doctor Strange movie Dormammu.
Yeah, just a wave in space.
Yeah, just a crazy technicolor dream face.
I love Dormammu in that movie.
So do I. Like, people kind of gave him a bad rap. I thought he was actually kind of cool.
Well, people talk about him like he's Galactus from Rise of the Silver Surfer, but he really wasn't. He was Dormammu. They called him Dormammu. Yeah. He had his face, and he was there. You know, what do you? He's an imperceptibly powerful demon. What do you want him to look like? Brad Pitt?
Well, I mean, like the problem is that like Dormammu in the comics is from hell, right? Because there is a concept of heaven and hell in the comic books. In the movie universe, they haven't quite established.
Right, they just call them other dimensions for the time being.
Yeah. So like you can't just say like because then you do kind of run into an issue. The second that you insert a real like religion's mythology into your mythology, you now have to play by other rules.
Right.
Yeah.
I often wonder what would have happened if they'd had that ending to Ghost Rider. Do you remember the Ghost Rider had that writer for a long time who was like an evangelical Christian? And he wanted to end with Ghost Rider getting his soul back and becoming a Christian, and through the power of Christ redeeming himself and becoming like Christian Ghost Rider. And a lot of people would be like, that would be terrible, and they vetoed it and they wouldn't let him do it. But I actually think that would have been, speaking of someone with no particular fondness for religion, if the character starts off as a guy who sold his soul to the devil and gets devil powers, why do you eventually go, hey, we can't go near the Christian stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do you draw the line there? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. Although all I can really think about about that though is like Tommy the White Ranger. You know, that's all I can think of in my head. You know,
right?
Like, or I mean, they did some interesting stuff with it, but I'm still not a huge fan of when, like in the Green Lantern mythos, they came up with the White Lantern. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes! Like,
plus, you know, you'd have scenes where the Avengers are all in Avengers Tower and Johnny Blaze is like knocking on the door and they're looking out the window like, who is it? Is it Johnny Blaze? Has he got his Bible? Close the curtains.
Have you heard the good news?
Go away, Ghost Rider. Nobody's home. I can see you in there. Tony! I think you need to hear this! We all love you!
That bottle was not your friend.
Come on, Professor Pym! Hate the sin, but love the sinner! What? What are you implying? Nothing! Still with us, John?
I'm with you. Just give me a second.
No, you will have no seconds.
Bye.
Okay, my bad.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of comics, give me another second real quick. I'm gonna make myself another cup of coffee because if you have time, I wanted to bring up a couple things about some comics I was reading.
I got a little bit longer, but I do have to finish up soon.
Okay, give me a second. Carry on entertaining the people.
Oh yeah, I should be able to say, hello! How you doing? So while John doesn't like the character designs in this game, I actually think most of them are pretty okay. I don't mind this style. A lot of people were sad that this moved away from a traditional comic book style, but I sort of feel like we'd had 3 in that style. Every so often doing one that's a little bit different, trying something new is okay. And I actually really like how Iron Man looks in this game. I like the game, I like the lighting. I am fond of this game. I think this game got a lot of hate it doesn't deserve, and I'll tell you why I think it got a lot of hate it doesn't deserve. The structure of this game is very much designed to introduce new players. And I actually think this is a situation similar to Star Wars Battlefront, when we're looking at a game that is intended to be for a wider audience and introduce people to the genre, getting kind of hated on by people who are pros and already very into the genre, who don't like it because it's not for them. And I think that's a real pity, personally, because I think this is a fun game. I know a lot of people don't like it when that happens, because there's always talk about dumbing down and stuff, but... And I totally get that the difficulty when you're talking about a fighting game is fighting games tend to thrive on the pro market at the moment, and what's the point in a fighting game for the pro market that people think's dumbed down, but... I don't know, you have to have something on there that brings new people in, you know? And it can't just be Smash Brothers, because, unfortunately, despite Smash Brothers having a hugely popular wider audience, its pro audience is very exclusionary and very aggressive, so it's not actually good at bringing new people in. So yeah, I think this game suffered for being aimed at people new to fighting games, and that's a shame.
Yeah,
because I'm generally new to fighting games and I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I absolutely feel that about the 2015 Battlefront. It was for people like me who hadn't really found a love for online shooters yet. And I found my love for online shooters in it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like, what pro gamers tend to forget a lot of times is you can become a pro at any game with any system if you have the skills. Like, and to me it's like, okay, you don't make a game that caters to a pro audience. You make a game and let the pro audience get good at your game, right? You know? Which is, I don't know. So, okay, so what I wanted to bring up is, so the other day I had to work a double shift at work, and it was incredibly boring. But thankfully, I do have Marvel Unlimited service, and has an online app on my phone.
I looked into this the other day, and I cannot find a free trial anywhere, and I'm cross. Most services like that just do free trials for the first month, but they don't, which is annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, I got my free trial because it came with Spider-Man.
I am legitimately considering trying it.
It is, I think if you have the, I don't know, it was $10 for me. I don't know how many pounds it is for you, but
it's about 60, 70 pounds a year if you get an annual, but I wouldn't be doing that. I'd be buying in and out, you know?
Yeah, that's what I intend to do. But so I read through about, I want to say, close to 30 issues of The Runaways. Which I like. I did read the initial run back when they came out, but I reread them because I didn't remember a lot about them, and yeah, they're still a lot of fun. But there's something I never picked up on that I noticed this time when I was reading it, maybe because I was reading it all at once, but they slip in a really kind of dark thing into a comic book that's essentially about children, right? These are teenagers who have run away from home and they live on their own, and even after the initial storyline of them taking on their parents is over, they keep up this whole it's them against the world kind of mentality. Adults suck, and like the only people they can trust is themselves. But they slip in something really dark, and it's with the character Nico, who is this teenage girl, and she kind of gets defaulted as leader of the group, even though she doesn't really. She knows she's not good at it, but everyone keeps on just like, well, we don't really want to do it, so it's on you. But one of the kind of running things is that she kind of messes around with a lot of guys in the comic book. Every time they introduce like a new male character, at some point she has a thing with them. And I'm reading this and I'm like, like, well, I guess like it is.
That's her character. That's what they're going for.
Yeah, it's a teenager book, so of course there's gonna be romance and whatnot in there.
More.
Okay. Yeah, it's just, yeah, like whenever you have a book that is kind of supposed to appeal to that teen audience.
Yeah, they always push those limits a little bit.
Yeah, you always gotta throw a little sex in there. Teenagers love sex.
Teens are not big on subtlety.
Right. But what I realized though, it wasn't that. It really wasn't. I never picked up on it before, but when you go back and look at all the times that she hooks up with a character, is directly after a really tragic event happens in their story.
Oh, wow.
And they don't mention it until about where I am now. She finally says, like, look, I have a problem. Every time something bad happens, I go and sleep with someone. I'm like, oh no, I never picked up on it, but they absolutely did that, where they have a character who literally deals with their depression by sleeping with people. A teenage character who uses promiscuity to handle depression. And I don't really have an opinion about that. I just thought it was really like, whoa. Like,
it sounds quite well done as well. Not overtly pointing it out at first, but giving people a chance to have feelings about it, and then... Because you've always got that question of, did they... I'm sure they did, but there's always that question there of, did they intend it, or did they realize what they were doing and then write a compensation? But I'm sure that's not what they were doing, but do you know what I mean? There's always that...
I will say that they pretty much only had one writer through about 40 issues, Brian K. Vaughan. Who, if you don't know who Brian K. Vaughan is, he's a very, very good comic book writer. He has some chops. He did, like I said, I think I mentioned this on the show last week, but he's done stuff like The Kingsman. He did, oh fuck, what other one did he do? I think he did Kick-Ass. That was Mark Millar, wasn't it?
Of course it was. Of course it was. Now you say it, of course it was. I wouldn't even need to know that before, and I would know it would be Mark Millar.
He's done Saga, I think. He does Saga. let me bring up his thing. There's some other kind of big properties in it, but he has chops. So
so it probably is intentional. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that it was, but you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
There was someone in the Twitch chat and I didn't see. Hello to Daddy Big Boy if you're still there.
Hello.
Sorry I missed you. It wasn't intentional.
I was gonna say. The only thing
who the hell is this character?
I'm kind of annoyed. That is, fuck I know. The only thing I'm kind of annoyed is that the current run of the Runaways I'm reading that I've made it to has Humberto Ramos as the artist, and Humberto Ramos is an artist that has a very, very distinct style. I mean, when you know who he is and what comics he does, there's no getting around the fact that it's his art, right? It is not going to be mistaken for anyone else. The problem is that it's a style that I don't mind, but only in very small doses. He did a run of Batman called Batman Orphans, one of the things it's called. Where he did the art, and it was a three.
I don't remember that one, but could you give me some, before we move on, could you give me some examples of things I might know he's drawn? Because off the top of my head, I don't know him.
Let me bring up his.
I didn't mean to derail, but I would, I'd like to, if I know who it is, I'd like to know who we're talking about. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Well, he has done. It says here he has done some Spider-Man, and
it's difficult because obviously I like comics, but I don't keep up with them as much as you do, so it can be tricky.
Right. I'm trying to think of any. So notable works. He's done work on Impulse, Crimson, which I think is his.
Impulse, the Flash book, or
yeah. Peter Parker Spider-Man, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Civil War Wolverine, Runaways, The Amazing Spider-Man. Let me just link you in Skype here to some of his images, and you'll get what I mean. I'll bring up some images and then.
All right. Awaiting images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a fun one.
John's doing stuff. La 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 la.
There we go. And I suppose I could put it in the chat as well.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, it's that sort of style.
What did you say his name was?
Humberto Ramos.
Okay.
So I like it because it is comic booky and it doesn't try to be like super realistic at all.
No, he actually he wrote a Spider-Man book I really liked with drew a Spider-Man book I really liked with Green Goblin in a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really like his Spider-Man art style. He's got a real loose sort of look to it. It's not loose. It's actually quite structured and clean, but
it's very expressive.
He is not conformed to traditional anatomy. No, I do know who that is, and I like what I've seen.
Yeah, like I said, I do like it, but I can only handle certain
I wouldn't want every book to
small
look like
amounts in
it.
it.
Well, for me,
Right.
it's a character thing. I think it's something that's very right for Spider-Man, but wouldn't be right for Captain America.
Right. Let me see if I can come up with an image of like what he's done, like with
Or
the
Superman.
Runaways. Like what they. Okay, so here, this is. Okay, so here is, and I'll post this in the chat as well, everyone. So if you're listening,
Nobody's listening.
is anybody out?
I will say this, I'm fighting an evil version of Spider-Man right now, and I don't know the context because I've been cutting the cutscenes. I think it's just supposed to be black-suited Spider-Man, but it's one of the most boring-looking takes they could have done. It looks like the Raimi black-suited Spider-Man, you know?
Right. So okay, so that's the Umberto Ramos version of the Runaways. If I could just. Maybe I can find. Oh no, I don't care about Jones yet.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean.
Um,
Well, that looks
then,
like it could be like babies' kids, you know?
right. But then like, here once I bring this up, and like this is kind of like a promotional image from the original run, so you can kind of see how very different it is.
Yeah, and that's always difficult when art styles change very much within a run from one style to a very different style. I often find difficult. Like, I won't lie, right? I have to say, I always feel better when I'm reading, because I've just finished reading Miss Marvel. Oh, I say finished. I've read all the trades. I always feel better when the artist from the first volume is back.
Right.
Everyone else, I know this is going to sound, I don't mean it quite the way it's going to sound. Everyone else makes it look too attractive.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
When you first see her, she looks just like a teenager, and she's got kind of like a broad, rounded nose. Do you know what I mean? That looks.
Right.
She looks normal, like a human being.
You want to know where it's the kind of the worst? There was a crossover event with the Champions and the Avengers. When they drew her in the Avengers book, they get not quite, all right, it's not quite there, but they get very, 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 very close to basically drawing her as if she's like 22 years old, right?
Yeah.
And it's there's a few times where, I mean, it never gets like cheesecakey, and they definitely don't like sexualize her, but they do make her look quite a bit attractive. With the intent of making her
I don't necessarily mind that she looks attractive, although it's kind of wrong for the character. Not that she would be attractive, but that she would be drawn with that in mind.
Right.
I mean, this is a character who her costume's based on Muslim modesty wear. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I realize that's not the full extent of her character, but do you know, it is a very important part of her, I think. Even though, like, her own discomfort with that is a running thing in the story. Like, very early on, she talks about how she would be Miss Marvel and she'd bring the sexy costume back. And then when she actually is in it, she realizes, okay, this requires quite a bit more, like, confidence than I expected, you know? And that is part of her character, but I don't love the way other artists handle, like, I mean, they're not all bad. They're not all bad, like, lots of different people. And there's always that difficulty which you can't really fault them for. Sometimes different artists will come onto books and they don't look like the same person, you know? Just
right.
Because two people drawing the same character don't always get them right, you know? There is one artist that always looks more accurate Kamala Khan to me just because it's the first one I saw, and that's a bias of just what you're used to, not a problem with the art. But there are a lot of people who draw her and just don't draw her in keeping with the spirit of the book, I think. And someone else must feel the same way too, because they never stay long.
Right. I mean, I think there's a lot to say too about especially like I guess I don't mind so much like if I read like Daredevil, it doesn't really bother me when they switch up artists. There's sometimes there's artists that I don't really care for, or styles I don't care for, but I don't ever really feel like Daredevil looks wrong. And Daredevil is by far like one of my favorite characters. But I don't have like, it's gonna sound weird, but I don't have like a kind of like a personal connection to that comic book. I love it, but I don't love it on like a very personal level.
Right.
The Runaways and Miss Marvel, for some reason I do have kind of like an emotional connection to it. Like there's things about those books, like I wouldn't enjoy reading a long run of Daredevil where there was no action.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'd be perfectly fine reading a extended series of The Runaways or Miss Marvel.
Well, I haven't read The Runaways, but I would say fundamentally with Miss Marvel, it's because for me, it's about how she deals with being a superhero more than it's about her superheroics.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I agree. But like, it's not all bad. Like, I would say the artist who does the covers of the trades, not the same artist who does the main books early on, but they look great. She looks great on her own covers, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just me being picky, I'm sure.
But I'm really interested because I think they'll be coming up with. Well, I know for a fact that the Hulu show is having a second season of The Runaways, and I want to say that they have a I want to say that they have another comic book series either going right now or it's been announced that they're coming back. So, just in case you don't know, like, the point I'm in is after this whole storyline where the team actually gets sent back in time, back to 1907.
Oh, very good year.
yeah. I remember it fondly. But
when I was 17,
they find themselves like kind of in the middle of a turf war between groups of superheroes, but back then they're called miracles or wonders. And but
other types of whip.
Yes. I love me some Wonder Whip. But another thing where I was kind of surprised they went there, right? So while they're in 1907, one of the characters comes across this little girl who is a wonder. She has these powers where she makes plants grow and stuff, like basically poison ivy. But the character kind of follows her home because she wants to talk to her, and she finds out that she's being abused by this man in the house, and she's like 7, she's 10 years old, like this little girl, and so it's it's clear her father is slapping her around, right? And but they have to kind of keep reminding this one character, like, hey, this is 1907, like, it sucks.
There's no legal recourse for this right now.
Right, like this is kind of what happens. Well, they eventually they do actually talk her into just coming back with them. So they take her from 1907 back to 2007, as at the year that this was being written in. And then on the way back, they're like, look, and when we go back, there's gonna be no angry fathers there to beat you. She goes, what? And like, yeah, your father beat you. Like, no, that was my husband. It's like, oh God. And they don't really shy away from it. At a certain point, she does say that she had to perform marital duties. And it's like, wow, like I'm really kind of shocked that they had to. But the funny thing is though is that because it's a teen book, it is rated T. They can't actually get away with saying that they're having sex. So even with the character who, Nico, who sleeps around after having traumatic experiences, they never come out and say, "Oh, we had sex." There's always like these little innuendos thrown in around it, and references, but never an outright statement that they had sex, which is kind of funny, but it's very clear. Runaways, everyone. You should read it.
Yeah, it sounds like a real really feel-good book.
It has its dark moments, of course, but it's really fun too. Like they don't shy away with just having some goofy like one-off adventures. There's actually a really cool part of the book. A character, Carolina, who turns out to be an alien.
Does she make you happy? Haven't thought about that in a while.
No.
It was a good while. I liked it.
Yeah, let's bring that back, huh?
No.
So at a certain point, this super scroll shows up, and what you find out is that her parents had essentially arranged this marriage to basically keep the scrolls off of Earth for a while. I mean, it's a long story, but essentially it's an arranged marriage. And but the thing is that this Carolina, literally that issue, she comes out of the closet, and she's like, oh no, I'm into girls and whatnot. And so when the Super Scroll shows up and he's like, no, we're engaged to be married and blah blah, and her first response is, well, no, I can't because I'm gay. I like girls. And he goes, I'm a shapeshifter. And he just turns into a woman. And then from then on, he sticks with it. Like he just chooses. And then they actually go off because like they have to establish like a peace treaty between the Skrulls and Carolina's people. And the thing is like everyone keeps on asking like, well, is he still a guy and just choosing to like act like a woman? It's like, well, no, as like growing up as a shapeshifter like that, gender really doesn't have a role in Skrull society. So like
it's an interesting way of handling it. And the thing is, he was an alien anyway. Like, so right. Is gender, like, would that have been more pivotal than the whole different species thing anyway? Mm-hmm. Like, if he was already gonna have to, like, assume some form of humanity, do you know what I mean?
Right. No, it's really, really interesting how they don't shy away from certain things, but they also handle it, directly. They don't try to be like necessarily cute about it. They don't attack it with kind of the bluntness that you would if you had like a mature book or something aimed at adults. But they also don't like ever try to pretend it's something it's not. You know?
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what time it is. Oh, it looks like it might be time for us to start wrapping up here.
I think so, if you just see us out.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you all for joining us for this little chill stream that wasn't so chill at times, but we got there. We got back to some chillness. And as far as I know, we will be having our show on Monday, so tune in on Monday, roughly 4 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock p.m. Central Time. What is that, 10 o'clock?
Yeah.
British Standard Time, or what is it?
Yeah, that is
it
changing.
British?
That is changing soon, but I don't know exactly when. I think it's October 23rd, so not,
and
not by
ours
next
is
week.
November. So there's always that 2 or 3 week gap where our times don't match up.
The sleepy time.
Yeah, but yeah, tune in on Monday, and we'll have more pop culture talk for you, and more chat interaction and whatnot. So yeah, until then, I've been one of your hosts, Jonathan Cadot. With me, as always, has been Owen Adams. Owen, where can they find you?
I got my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Owen Adams. Where can they find you, Jonathan?
You can follow me on Twitter, which is @JohnC_Person. That's JON, the letter C, person. And you can just follow this channel right here, because this is where I put all my stuff.
And
hold
on, I've got your address written down here. It is.
And yes, buy Chicken Lisa and buy Lou's Corner. Hey, Luz, I didn't even know you were here.
Bye.
Bye.
There is that famous story just before we get out of here.
Mister?
Just before we, there is that famous story of the time there was a band opening for Pink Floyd, and they opened with a song that they said, a song called "I Know Where Sid Barrett Lives," and then halfway through the song they stopped and read out his address. And Pink Floyd kicked him off the tour, which I just thought was very funny. I'm going to play a song called "I Know Where Sid Barrett Lives." Like, they didn't see that coming, you know? Anyway.
All right.
So, carry on.
So, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Until next time, have a good one.
Bye.